Okay, I will call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Peter, we saved that spot just for you.
Thank you. It's the one I would have took anyway.
No. All right, so next agenda item is board introductions. So I figure what we can do is just start around the room. We'll just go around and everyone can introduce themselves and their role. So we'll start over there. Joyce,
Okay,
just say who you are and
I'm Joyce Hakey, I'm the principal of Franklin, and I do want to just welcome everybody to Franklin, if that's okay. And just really quickly, I have to confess that you are gonna see spring decorations and winter decorations, which is driving me crazy. But the winter decorations are because there was student work that I wanted to leave up for parent conferences for the next 2 nights. So that, I just want to tell you, because usually I'm a month ahead on everything, so. Anyway, welcome to Franklin, glad to have you all here. Thank you.
thank you.
The winter's perfect, it's snowing.
I know. I think that people think I jinxed you guys.
All right.
I'm Stephanie Gagne and I'm the Swanton School Director.
Laura McAllister, the Director of Finance and Operations.
Megan Conley, Swanton School Director, Vice Chair. And Tracy Philbin, Highgate Director.
I'm John Brown, I'm not on the board, I am your EI Product Manager for sure.
Hi, Julie Rogenball, Superintendent.
I'm Rennick from Highgate and board chair.
Pierre Bouchard and represent Franklin on the school board.
Elaine Nestor, Highgate Representative.
Joanne Johnston, Franklin School Board Member.
Don Collins, Swanton Representative.
Bonnie Walton, Director of Human Resources.
Philip, who's from our tech department.
I'm Peter Magnet. I'm on the MVSD school board and I'm from the town of Franklin.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next agenda item is agenda review. Dawn, I believe you'd had something you wanted to talk
Right,
about.
I looked at this agenda and I thought, should I bring my breakfast muffin with me? Because it was like a long night. So I would ask under 8 that future board retreats occur prior to MVSD committee. And when we get there, I can explain more on the rationale. But I'm asking at this time that D become C and C become D.
Is there any objection to that? Okay, I don't see any, so C becomes D.
Yep, thank you, and thank you for doing the introductions.
Absolutely, that'll be a regular occurrence for board meetings. Okay. Can I get approval for the minutes for March 11th?
We skipped correspondence.
Oh, I did.
Sorry.
Thank you, Joanne. So correspondent visitors and public comment.
Well, I'm here for item on your agenda tonight.
For the Rural School Committee Alliance.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody online? Okay. All right, so now we'll move to approval of the minutes for March 11th, 2025. Can I get a motion for those?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just want to thank Bonnie for sending out a revision.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes from March 11th, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed or abstain? Motion carries 9-0. Okay, next agenda item, we have administrative reports. Let's start with Swanton. Are there any questions for Swanton on the Swanton school report? Chris, you want to kind of give us a little overview of your report and maybe highlight a few things?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to mention a couple of things that aren't on there. We had a really fantastic fifth grade ski program this year that was really successful. And I particularly wanted to mention our partnership with the Catamount Trail Association. And this is the second year that they have given us ski equipment for all of our third grade students so that we've been able to include third graders in a ski program. So they give us cross-country ski equipment for a week or two, and Cam Nielsen works that into his PE classes for third grade. So I know that we've talked in the past a little bit about providing additional ski opportunities for students beyond fifth grade. And so that's a great way for the second year in a row that we've been able to do that. I wanted to just welcome Stephen Adams. So Stephen is our fifth and sixth grade school counselor who's been with us a couple of weeks now. And Stephen was unable to begin at the beginning of the year, but has been a great addition for us in the last couple of weeks and is getting settled in. So we're incredibly happy to have that position filled. And I also just wanted to mention that we are starting the hiring process, and we know that we have a couple of teaching openings at this point, and so we are beginning to review some applicants that we have online and get folks scheduled for those interviews. So that's always a big part of what happens between now and the end of the school year.
Any questions for Chris?
I have a question. I just noticed that there was no call out of like any problems of practice this month, and I was just wondering if that was, if really things are going that smoothly.
Yeah, so my problem of practice is right on the front page of my report.
Oh, that's the mental, oh, my apologies.
Yeah, that's okay. So what I had presented this month was just our desire, particularly after the public input that the board had at the last meeting, to really increase the visibility of mental health resources for our families. So what I spoke about in there was just a new section of our website that we've created to list some resources for families. And that's a work in progress, but we're going to be rolling that out over the next few weeks. And I think it's going to be a great resource for families.
Thank you, and again, my apologies for not catching that.
No worries.
Anything else for Chris?
Just a question, after-school program still moving forward in a positive way?
Absolutely, yes. So we're just getting ready to roll out registration again for the next session, and getting a lot of planning going for the summer. So it's always really exciting, particularly to see that Crossroads program transition into the summertime, and how integrated that is with our special education, extended school year services, and tutoring that we provide in the summer. So we have lots of great offerings after school this spring and lots of great things planned for the summer.
Don,
Thank you.
I'll just add that Julie had sent an email about just some concerns from the impact for lack of transportation for the summer programs. And I had mentioned to Julie and to Beth Ann to just keep the board updated on what we're seeing and the feedback we're getting from the community for how that's going to impact us. So I don't see Beth Ann. Yeah, it's not admin tonight. So if you could just make a note that we get some
absolutely.
updates
That
as
was
we get
a
closer.
little early because we haven't sent out the family communication yet, but that person works for one of our bus companies, so I think he had sort of an early heads up, but then felt really good about the response that we had about the ways we're trying to support families.
It was a very good response. I would just say if we could maybe let communities know, probably.
It's gonna be like next week, I think, or the week after, but I think it's next week.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris. Highgate, Yeshua. How are you, Yeshua?
I'm very good. Thanks for asking.
What anything you want to highlight on your report? Kind of bring to our attention.
Yeah, I don't think anything necessarily. I was thinking about we had Sarah Ward yesterday, who is an executive functioning specialist, and she actually got to meet with all of our grade levels in PLC meetings, which it really feels like it's like a celebrity in the field. I mean, Sarah Ward is extremely talented at what she does, and it's incredible to see her work with teachers, and they say, this is a need that I have. How can you support me? And she will literally just give them a strategy just from the plethora of resources that she has. So that was really, really lucky, I think, for our staff professionally. I think we are in the crux of creating our master schedule for next year. It takes numerous meetings to get our master schedule figured out because I have some masterminds, I would say, that really try to look at needs we've identified within our schedule to make sure it's equitable sharing of resources throughout the building. And so we're just finished up meeting number 3 today. We're going to present another draft. So that's always exciting because I'm always amazed with how great that work goes. I also think, like Chris had kind of mentioned around the ski program, we had our final ski trip and we do it with 5th and 6th graders. And they just had a really great time. I'm sure if anyone here are skiers or snowboarders, they just had really some great powder they were cutting into there on the slopes. So it was just a really great trip this year. And historically, we've actually always missed one because of weather, and we've never been able to make it up because it feels like once winter goes away, we never get that lost ski day up. And this year we did get all of them. So that was actually very nice for students. Of course, they love it. And I can't really think really anything other than that. I think to really kind of share some highlights from Highgate.
Well, you have parent teachers tonight, right?
Oh yeah, that's where I am.
I'm missing those. Oh, wife's covering it, so hopefully that goes well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great having families in. Always great.
Any questions for Yeshua?
Yeshua, I read your report about the facilities meeting that you have each week. And my question is, at what point do you bring Justina into those meetings? I know she's employed right now, but with everything going on there, and of course you're gonna have a lot going on in Swanton.
Yeah.
Just wondered what was happening with your busy schedule and the whole coordination of it.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny, I was in a meeting today and I do feel like I'm living a little bit in two worlds as I'm thinking about things coming up here. But yeah, Justina and I have just had a preliminary conversation of what are the kind of things she would like to really be a part of. And then I just kind of share information with her based on things that are happening. I haven't necessarily invited her to anything yet because we're not really in the deep throes of summer planning or next year planning. But certainly when we get into more details around the roof work and the windows being replaced here at Highgate, I do want her to come in for that stuff because that will directly impact her and what she's doing over the summer. So you bring up a good point of she'll have to start getting into those conversations, but it does seem like she will have some flexibility. So when I do schedule those things, I'll try to see what she can do first. But I'm certainly keeping a record of information for her.
Thank you. I brought it up tonight because I saw in the minutes, it jogged my memory. I'd probably forget it if you didn't have that. So, good. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Anything else for Yeshua? Okay. Joyce, you wanna?
Sure. I just didn't know if you wanted me to wait till after the presentation or do it now, because I know they're waiting over there, but I can go quick.
No, go ahead.
As long as you know a lot of questions, I can go quick. So basically, a lot of really good things happening. Senior dinner, hope you read my report. Favorite day of the whole year. It is such a whole school effort and so appreciated by the people that come. And the skills that kids learn from that, sometimes people are like, wow, you spend quite a bit of time doing that. But I think some of the skills that we teach to be able to do that day are things that kids don't always learn anyplace else these days. You know, not everybody has extended family nearby, and you know, how do you help an elderly person from their car, walk them into the building? How do you serve somebody a meal? Which side do you serve from? Where does that fork go? And anyway, so senior dinner was just a big success as always, and we also had great Spirit Week participation. The Fable Vision workshops were just so much fun. Kids were so engaged in that. And then, of course, we celebrated last year's testing to kind of kick off this year's testing. And I always make sure the kids, when they come down, it's like, if we work hard, we can play hard. So I like to play hard, and we work hard. So yeah, everything's been going along really well. I will say, I did not put a problem in there, and it doesn't mean that everything is perfect, but sometimes the things that are most challenging are really hard to write about in a report that is at a meeting like this. And I will say staffing, and I know nobody wants to keep hearing about that, but that continues to be a problem every day. So I'll tell you, I was running until you guys just got here, because we had a lot of people out today. And I was hoping everybody was gonna come back so healthy after February vacation. Now I'm hoping after April vacation. But anyway, so that, I think, kind of sums up my report. One thing that I did the last couple of years that took a ton of time the last few weeks, and I know people would say, well, why do you do that yourself? I made every appointment for parent conferences. So I talked to every single family here. And I used to let somebody else do that or do that with me. And I just really think it sends the message of how important I think parent conferences are. It gives me that opportunity if somebody wants to tell me something, that they've got me on the phone, or sometimes it's that I want to tell them something. And I can do it in a way that I don't have to make some other phone call for. And so it's just really cool to be able to say I've just talked to every single family. And so, and you know, we do have usually 100% of our parents come to conferences, so I think they understand how important that partnership is to us and to the kids and to our school. So, but I probably wasn't as quick as I should have been, but I'm done.
Any quick questions for Joyce? All right, well.
Probably not after I said, if there's not many questions, we can get over to the presentation.
All right, so let's get to this presentation.
All right.
So while Joyce invites, while Joyce goes to bring the kids in.
But they're not coming in here, we're going to the music
Oh,
room.
we're going to the music room.
Yes.
I just want to say, Justina's welcome community visit is next Tuesday from 6 to 7 in Highgate. It's all on Facebook. And then for Yeshua, it is Thursday the 3rd from 5 to 6 before an event that they have coming up. So both of those invitations are on Facebook. I'll be happy to share those with board members, but I wanted to mention that on camera.
Thank you, Julie. So we are gonna go over to the music room. If you wanna grab something to have with you while you're over there. We might need to add a few more chairs because I wasn't expecting quite so many people tonight. So we're going to the music room, and Jen McConnell has it's really elementary music scaffolding presentation. It's not the chorus or the band coming tonight. So we'll go over as quick as we can.
Thank you, principals.
Good.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank Jen, because, you know, we so appreciate kids coming before the board, but it's prep for, you know, it's teachers need to arrange it and work with the students and the presenting, and it's so valuable for them to have this audience to present to. But I just wanted to thank her for the work of preparing all these kids.
And also,
Total ringers, those kids.
they
Very
have
good.
to stay up late, they get cookies. Okay, so we'll get started. So the next agenda item is the Rural School Community Alliance. Julie, if you just want to introduce the topic and who we have to speak about it.
So, and Jay Deneau, I know will want to share an overview of it. I made sure that the board had the document of I'm trying to think of the word, their proposal and what their purpose is. This group has been around for a while, having worked through the Act 46 consolidation process. the board members all received an invitation early on in the legislative session to see if there was interest in joining. And so we started opening this up for discussion here at the board meeting about what it is. And then the board can decide, discuss and decide what their next steps might be.
And yeah, just to reiterate, this is in the board drive. Hope you already had a chance to read through it. And then, Jay, if you'd like to exercise your public comment and speak on it a little bit, that'd be great.
Having been a member of its predecessor, the Act 46 group, having the distinct pleasure of being part of this group, I can tell you that they're much more organized than we ever were back 9 years ago.
Jay, I don't think people will be able to hear you.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure that the cameras are able to hear you.
So this group is a really bipartisan group of a lot of people throughout the state. There's actually 80 school districts that have joined so far. Several select boards have joined, and they've been participating in the discussions. They have a group of them that attends every single meeting every day at Mount Bitter. They also have a lobbyist that's working with them. So they don't really miss the trick, you know. And there's several committees, like for example, the redistricting, the lines that they're drawing. Everybody knows them out there now. The 5 districts know them. So the committee of jurisdiction was the government office, the House and Senate government office, and they've been struggling with this, and I don't believe that they found it. So what does the government do? What does the legislature do when they get finances? They create another committee. So what they did is create another committee to study districting, and they're not going to have a report ready until December. So there are a lot of bills that have been introduced, like for example, H122, which is a bill to create 25 districts.
Thank
You know, the problem is details, and the devil's in the details, because H122 calls for a minimum average daily membership in elementary schools at 450. So I don't need to tell you how detrimental that would be to a lot of schools across the state. But anyway, those bills are not going anywhere. There's several of them. They're not going anywhere until December when this report comes out. But the Alliance has built credibility because there's a lot of experience with people that are in this group. We have retired, retired and current superintendents. We have teachers, parents, people that are actually consumers of educational services in their districts and communities and so forth. It's a really good bipartisan cross-section of people all across the state. And so if I can, I'm hoping I can convince you of the merits of joining, because what will happen is every one of your emails will be placed on the email list. And what that does, that gives you a window to not only observe and be informed about all the things that are taking place in all the committees on a daily basis, because you'll see as many as a dozen emails. I know that you got a lot of work to do now, but you'll see as many as a dozen emails about things that are happening, and it'll give you an opportunity not only to have a window to look through, but an ability to participate in the discussion. In addition to that, the committees have recognized the credibility of the Alliance, and they've been informed that they'll have multiple opportunities to testify moving forward. So I think it'd be wise for the board, not only for, so that they could be fully informed of what's really going on a daily basis. So that you may want to chime in and give your opinion about, you know, what, you know, if you have an opinion on something that's being discussed, you'll be given an ongoing ability to do that. So I really strongly urge the board to do this, because it will really help keep you on in the game. So, and if there's any questions that you may have, I'll try to answer.
Okay. All right. Well, we can open it up for discussion. If there's any questions amongst the board on the possibility for potentially joining this community alliance.
So Jay, did you say 80 plus communities are involved?
80 school districts.
80 school districts.
Yeah.
So we would be considered one school district, not three schools.
In the report, the list of districts is there. Supervisor unions and school districts.
No, there's been a few added to the,
Yeah, a lot of them are single school
Right.
districts.
yeah.
That's why I tried to clarify that.
Some of them are SUs, and some of them are individual school districts. But all told, without separating which is an SU, which is school district, there's 80. Not counting the select board members, the individuals that joined. I actually joined it. Not that that's any reason for you guys to join it, but.
Did you say there is a lobbyist, right, working with them?
There's not only a lobbyist, but they have a team that makes sure that somebody from the association or the alliance is attending the meetings on a daily basis, so that everybody in the alliance can be kept up to date with what's happening. All the discussions in this new committee, they will be participating in that committee too. They'll be attending those meetings as well. So all the subcommittees of the committees of jurisdiction will be monitored all the way through.
Is John Castle involved with this?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I've read it somewhere. I've known John for many, many, many
Yeah,
years.
he's a good man.
Megan?
Is there a cost involved?
No,
No cost?
no. They were at one time asking for donations for the lobbyists, but they got enough money to pay for that.
Megan?
I guess I'm wondering what this organization's end game is. Like, what is the goal?
Oh, I'd be glad to explain that. They know that change is necessary. There's no doubt in their minds that as a group, the group is very understanding that there's going to have to be some changes. Their only concern is they don't want to throw out the good with the bad. And so some of that means which schools stay open, which schools close. I mean, there are some schools that's really hard to justify. You know, as much as I hate to say that. I don't happen to believe we have that problem here. But there are some difficult decisions. But the committee wants to find workable solutions. For example, there's a lot of things about independent schools and how they continue to serve students. The problem with that is that there seems to be an objection to spending state dollars for independent schools that are either out of the state or in the country in some cases. We got kids going to community schools and stuff. What kind of an impact that has on the education line. So they're aware of that. They're cognizant of those issues. There are some places in the state that there's no choice to resort to an independent school, but it has to be a state-approved independent school. But they don't have any choice because they don't have that within regional distance communities. That's down in the southwestern corner of the state, southeastern corner of the state, something like that. And so still not but they want to be part of the solution. Be part of the problem. Like I said, they're pretty quite partisan. So it's not like anybody's coming in with an agenda, but they know that something needs to be done, but just they don't want to see the state made have to do something.
Julie, what type of obligation would this require of your staff, yourself, or board members?
It wouldn't. I think the idea is that board members would have direct emails, similar to what you get from Vermont School Board Association, but you know, with a different perspective. So it's another organization that's really watching to see what's happening and trying to influence it. There's a lot of cards on the table right now.
Does VSBA see this as a competitor or a colleague?
You would have to
I know
ask
you
your own
can't, no, I'll call
organization.
Susie, but
You'd have to ask your own organization that.
do they
I don't
work
know
with
the
the SBA?
Oh, yeah, there's actually former members of the
Gee, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
There's actually former members of the VSBA that are serving, that are part of the alliance. But I think there's a kind of a general feeling that the VSBA, of course, being one of the four organizations represented on the commission, lately there seems to be an opinion that the commission is really not accomplishing this mission. And there's a little bit of resentment there because my personal opinion is I think the VSBA, along with the Principal Association, the Superintendent Association, and OSMO, they may have been misled a little bit. So now if you look at the commission, if you watch their meetings and things, they're really struggling.
You forgot to put, did you have the business managers in that MAD group, I used to call them MAD group?
You know, the other
That's
thing,
about
the
it.
other thing too is that the commission, if you think about it, the commission is charged with designing what the future of education is going to be in the state of Vermont. And all of a sudden they find themselves faced with having to deal with another commission or another committee to figure out how to get started. So there's a lot of mixed signals being organized.
Thank you. So are we, as a board, hearing this tonight? Jay's not quite connect, he's worked harder on it probably than I have, but with town meeting and everything, but I have done some reading on it, and I just had minimal contact with John Castle, but I know who he is. Is it our plan to hear this tonight and then discuss it amongst ourselves? Action tonight, or?
So there's no action on the agenda tonight.
Oh, I saw that.
I think that the board's free to discuss if there's something that we do want to consider and to put as a potential action item for a future agenda item. So, I think board members just need to sort of chime in and say whether or not that's something they would be interested to consider. My opinion on it is I like a lot of the content about what they're talking about. I don't know if the timing is right for us as a district right now. We're quite a large district, and looking over them, these are a lot of single school districts. But the other thing too, and I'll just say it to you, Jay, is even basing plans off of the proposals that are coming out of Montpelier is difficult because they're changing so fast. So a lot of the things that are being sort of argued against, we don't even know which direction they're going to go. And so
I'm glad you said that, because this gives you an opportunity to participate in discussions in real time. So you'll be able to see what the discussions are occurring and participate in them. So and you're right, with meeting virtually happening every single day, multiple committees, it's impossible to stay on top of all of them.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot there, and I think that communication piece is
Give you this membership will be an opportunity to not only see but participate on a daily basis in real time.
May individuals join and not, may individuals join rather than boards?
Sorry, didn't hear.
May individual
Yeah.
people join
Yeah, each
instead of the board?
Each one of you will be put on a mailing list, so every one of you will be able to follow the discussions on a daily basis.
I guess I'm getting at is it something that has to be agreed to as the board of MVSD is in support of this or wants to be associated with it, or if we don't, but individual members do, is that a conflict of interest?
I don't see why it is. I mean, if an individual board member wants to be a part of it, just like they want to take increased roles within the VSBA or anything, they're free to do so. We would need a consensus and a vote if the board was to put themselves on this list. So I think is there any other questions about it amongst the board? Because if not, then this could be something that we move to potentially a future agenda item to talk about.
Mr. Chairman, looking at our agenda here, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the board retreat, should we have a board decide in the next item to do a board retreat, this might be a place to do this, a little more in-depth discussion. So just something to consider.
The only thing I would warn about a board retreat is that's a matter of public interest, which really shouldn't, the board retreat is really about the board
Okay.
talking about themselves, and then then it's not a public meeting, it's a board training.
Okay.
Right, so I'm just throwing that out.
Okay. So what we'll do is, we'll just leave this for now, and Jay, what I think we're gonna do is, I don't have a problem bringing it up for a future agenda item again. I just think the pace of the legislator right now, like where we're gonna be in, as we get closer to the end of the session, I think we'll be in a better position to know, whether or not this is right or wrong. So.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but from my perspective, wouldn't it be advantageous to be able to follow those changes before they?
And so Megan brought up a good point that if an individual board member right now wishes to join and be on that list, and do we have the contact information for it? I think we do. So any board member is free to do that now, and then we'll talk at a later date whether or not the full board wants to do that.
There's another reason, I'm sure you probably all know this by now, but the federal government is dismantling their Department of Education. And which is kind of interesting because there's some similarities what's going on in the federal government and what's happening here in the state. So my only thought is that the current budget for the U.S. Department of Education is $102 billion. So if the current administration sticks true to its word, that they're going to transfer control of education back to the states, I'm curious to see how much of that money is going to come to the states.
Yeah, that is
So, I mean, that's another thing to consider because that's going to come up between now and December.
Yep, that's gonna be
And
a bigger
I think
issue that we all deal with.
Excuse me, I think it would be prudent for the board to pursue this and be part of the discussion rather than standing on the sideline watching.
And I think that's exactly why we're going to bring it up for further action. There's no action on the agenda for this evening, so we can't make that decision because it hasn't been warned. So to Rennick's point, no action is on the agenda.
Yeah. So this is the first time we're having the discussion as a board, and we can bring it up for a future agenda item. And it also gives time for individual board members to do a little bit more research and make sure. But in the meantime, and we can put that in the minutes, anybody who wishes individually to be a part of that, they can. You know, we'll see what the discussion looks like next time. But I appreciate you bringing this to us and talking about it. There's a lot of good stuff in here, so thank you.
I know we have a number of items for the future, but I would suggest now, if we're going to do that, April is real busy. I don't know what Julie's thinking, but some of the things that we've talked about. So maybe in May, we could at least give some direction as to whether we're not going to do it more.
Yeah, I'll look at May and.
I mean, I know we keep a list of future agenda items. As I say, I'm not trying to move that one to the head of the class, but if we kind of thought sometime in May, it'd be back on the agenda for discussion and action.
Okay, we can look at that. Thank you, Don. All right. So we had switched, so the next agenda item is actually future board retreats.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Don, did you want to start with why you wanted to move that around?
Yes. I talked with Julie a little bit. I talked with a couple of board members. And I wanted to at some point, actually I wanted to do it last year, but I was in Florida during a meeting, and I didn't think it was a Zoom, but I'd like to talk a little bit about board structure, governance, and committees. And I thought that if we are going to have a retreat, then that might be something considered. I think, Julie, when I talked to you about it, it was mentioned that it might be something to bring to a retreat, to talk about our boards, our committees, and as I say, I have some ideas I have on kind of the structure of governance on the board. I did think tonight would be appropriate when I saw the agenda, even before I saw the agenda, knowing we're coming to Franklin, and it's soon after town meeting and everything, and we've got an executive session. So that's why I asked to reverse it, so that if people say no, they want to do the committees tonight, and go from there. Our committee's been meeting, we're not meeting next month, but I just thought that committee's only one part of the way we operate our board. So that's why I asked that we change the order. But if we don't have a retreat, then I'll ask to bring my idea back and then,
What's your question?
what's that?
What's the question?
What's the question?
Yeah, so we're talking about future board retreats.
Yeah,
So what do you,
if we're going to have a future board retreat, I would like to consider talking about the governance of the board, and that would include the committees.
at the retreat?
Yeah, at
Okay.
the retreat.
Okay, sure.
And the board members may not want to do that. I've been very pleased that the new members, and have been around boards for quite a while, it seems like we have some new members that have come on in the last couple of years who are really committed to the board. We've struggled, you know, Highgate has struggled, Swan has struggled to keep people more than a year or two. It seems like we're over that hurdle. So just some things that I would like to take and discuss regarding that.
Okay, so the reason that this is on the agenda right now is because it's been expressed some board members that we've talked about having a couple of retreats during the year instead of the one. Because usually we have the one retreat in July. By the time we've discussed and we've talked about it and we have to implement it, you know, we're not able to get enough done and to sort of have like break up what we're trying to do. So Joanna reached out to me. This is something that we talked about last year, which is having potentially 2 retreats. And what I think might make sense is if we had an earlier retreat, like we had a shorter meeting, potentially sometime in April, and it could just be at a school. And we just sit there, and I would say this is just for the board, to really just talk about their goals, governance, roles of the committees as a board, and a little bit more introspective. And then once we've sort of had that time to work through things, we've talked about, I mentioned with Julie, having potentially a representative from the VSBA come there to help us as a board sort of talk about how we govern, how we work. And then we can have our regular retreat in July, and at that point, we've already sort of gone through some of the stuff we need to as a board. So that is sort of the proposal when it's future board retreats, is potentially having 2, a smaller one in April after a board meeting, and then our regular one in July. So, yeah, feedback, thoughts?
Dawn, is your thought that we'd have these discussions and possibly the outcome would be different committees, different, just an
little bit of both.
organization?
You know, I've framed it some way, but I don't have a final product.
Okay.
But,
I'm just wondering if the outcome could be, okay, well,
and
I
we
don't
don't
wanna be
have
on
to do
this
it
committee
then.
anymore.
We could just do it at a regular meeting. As I say, it's been cooking for about a year. Go ahead, because I want to respond to something that accepted that.
So I guess I'm trying to understand if the potential outcome of this discussion you want to have about committee and
It might
governance.
change the way we structure committees and what we have for committees.
Right, so is there a reason that we can't, for now, be like, these are current committees, these are the current members, and then
Leave it
have
like
that
it is,
conversation?
leave it like it is now. I mean,
Right.
We've all been meeting for months since,
So-
town meeting.
I do disagree, though. If we are talking about restructuring committee, forming a committee, that should be done now. That shouldn't be done in the middle of the year or later into the year. Because that's too big of a lift or an ask if we're adding something new to admin. Like, that's something that we should establish now, and we should do it in open session. So, in terms of like different board governance, we can do that in a retreat, but, you know, the committee discussion we are about to have should be assigning to the committees, and just like we did this time last year, if there's talks or discussion of having a different one, we should have that right now. And then we can develop what those committees do and refine them and like make it better at a retreat, but we should establish what we're having now. I don't think we should be coming out of a retreat in April or July and saying, hey,
Okay.
brand new committee, you know, it's the Friday afternoon committee, everyone would love that.
I didn't hear what you said. I don't know that.
So does that make sense? We should
Yeah.
establish what committees have. I don't
If
necessarily.
that's what you want to do, okay. I want to come back to something though you said. I think Joanne brought it up 2 or 3 years ago, And I think probably when our budget when the budget went down last year, it changed the whole playing field. But Joanne had strongly emphasized that we should have at least 2 retreats.
Yes.
Remember, and you used to come back to the board with individual items, and we try to do them on the agenda. So I think the idea of having 2 retreats is very, very important. And it wasn't my idea, but I certainly wholeheartedly. So I'm a go for the April retreat.
Okay, so.
And as I say, I think we were planning to do something last year, but after 3 budget votes.
Yes, and there was some conversation with Jen about wanting to hold off, because we really wanted to get the Vermont School Board Association to come in and work with the board on a reflection tool and look at the district quality standards around governance and talk about roles and responsibilities. Committee certainly falls into that. We have a couple of options for April that I want to share. One, we could cancel our second April board meeting, and which was going to be kicked way out until the last week of April because of the school vacation. And we could hold a retreat instead. I mean, if we had business, we could do a 10-minute board meeting, but we could do it over the school vacation on Thursday, the 24th. You can't do that?
I have surgery then.
I thought it was the next day.
No, it's Thursday.
Okay, so, no, we can't. But we could do the week before. The VSBA has some time on either the 14th or 15th. I believe the 16th is our Student Success Committee meeting.
Which we could
But-
juggle.
Yeah.
Right.
Juggle that.
We could juggle that, but you've got a quorum of people who go to Student Success on the 16th. But I could book that with Debbie Singh, I'm saying her name incorrectly. And that would be a Wednesday,
Wednesday.
right?
So,
I
we could-
have to look at the calendar, but if the board wants to do that, I mean, I think it's a great idea to get on the same page about how the board wants to run, how you work together. And I think those are tough conversations, and having a facilitator come in to do that, I think is really helpful for the board. The 16th is a Wednesday, and Tuesday is the 15th. And both of those work for the VSBA person, if you want to do that, either of those dates.
now if we did the 16th and their student success, that would be at MVSD.
Well, you could warn it for wherever you want to hold the meeting.
So Renee, you were here on the board when Phil Gore came.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was so pleased that happened.
Yeah,
Yes, but then he left and we got into multiple budget votes and kind of lost the momentum, so.
Yeah, I think this would just give us momentum going into a full retreat with admin and a clear direction, because there's a lot for us to talk about just in terms of goals. Like, what is our goals now potentially if this board fundamentally changes in 2-3 years, right? Like, so I think we have a lot to discuss as board members with potentially an outside person talking. So, is there consensus for an April retreat? Yes? Would the 16th work on the Wednesday? Kind of roll that right from student success?
I think
that-
so.
Would that work?
Yeah,
So
I will
it
check
would
baseball
be-
schedule. It looks good.
Is it like the kids' baseball? Has it started?
Varsity.
Oh,
Not
probably
you.
like first, second grade. That's
That's it's already started, but so I'll just check and see if there's a game. But there's a game Monday night, not Wednesday
Okay,
night.
16th?
With this would replace the Student Success Committee, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to make sure it wasn't like one and then the other. Got it, yep.
Does that work for first?
That works for
Okay.
Day after tax day.
It is the day after tax day, yes. And the day before our Fable Vision Family Night.
Okay, so April 16th, which is a Wednesday, we can just plan a short business meeting. Does that work for you, Tracy? Does that work for Purette?
Yep. What time are we looking at?
When can people do it?
If we could do 6 o'clock, same time. Do like a 6 to 8 one, and we can just do a short. Do we need to do a short? business meeting first?
Laura, need anything approved?
I don't have anything on my calendar right now.
Right now, I don't think we do, but should we need to, we could decide we would have it on that last Tuesday where it's scheduled right now.
Okay, and then for location, we just figure that out later.
Yep, that's up to the board.
Maybe use a nice big place unless you want to do it.
Well, I don't want to interrupt business unless people will, if we're replacing the students.
Let's investigate where, what's going on in the various schools. I don't want to commit a school when they may have an event going on that.
So I know MVU has their community career fair thing that day.
Right.
Okay, so we'll work on it, but we'll say the 16th at 6 o'clock, and we can figure out a location. Good, and then we'll keep our regular July retreat, inviting in, and we can discuss that, who we invite in the July retreat and what that looks like at the next retreat. Okay, cool. Any other discussion on future board retreats?
Will there be food?
Joyce?
I was just gonna say, we're welcome to come to Franklin, but I don't know how food, I could do food for you. Not supper, I can't cook.
We can figure something.
We'll figure something out, just for you, Peter, okay?
Franklin is available, just if
Okay.
you're looking for a school.
All right, so with that said, let's talk about committees. Julie, are you able to put up there?
I can if I join the meeting.
Or, does everyone see the committees or have printouts of them?
No? Are they up there?
If they're
They're
in
in
the
the
board
drive.
agenda, I will,
I'm in the
endeavor.
meeting, I'm in the meeting.
You're
Julie.
in the meeting?
Yep, go
Yeah.
for it, Laura. Yep.
Nobody needs to watch me try and join the meeting. Student success,
Okay, so this is the portion where we have to establish who's on which committees, and are we keeping the same committees? To my understanding, the foundation committees, which is finance, which is necessary for signing check warrants, and then facilities, and then we can go through the list of what we have. If there is a desire to change something or add something new, this is the time to have that discussion. So we'll start from the top. Is there a limit?
Well,
Because I think if
I
we
mean,
get
you
past
don't really,
quorum-
you don't really want to have a quorum of the school board, but we do warn all of them, so it's
Okay.
fine, but
Can you magnify that a little bit?
yeah.
Okay.
I've just put the administrators that usually attend on there, and I
Yeah.
took out all the board members, so we're starting from scratch.
Okay, so I'll start, and what I'll do is I'll just have the current chair of the committee just sort of give a brief, because it's, Joanne has this great saying, right? New member, new board. So we'll start and we'll talk about what the committee does. Current chair can give an overview, and then we can talk about continuing membership or changing, and
Type
for
it in.
nominating somebody for like a chair position. We just
You would
discussed.
usually do that in, people just select to be
Just
on the
select.
committee, and things like chair of committees is typically done in the committee.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so facilities, Peter, you wanna give us an overview of that committee and?
Sure. So yeah, the facilities committee, you can kind of see the highlights there. General fund plan operations, budget creation. So we're not creating the budget in the committee, but we are reviewing it and making suggestions and understanding what makes up the budget. Short and long-term capital planning, that's something that we've really worked hard at, trying to see what projects that we have coming up and how can we finance and how can we get those projects started. So that's a big part of the committee. And obviously, we follow all the progress of these projects that we have ongoing, and we try to review the projects that have been done and how they came out. And then one of our bigger things is bringing it to the full board and giving an explanation on what the proposals are, because our facilities meetings are often an hour to 2 hours of information that obviously we don't have time to do that at every board meeting. So it gives us a chance to absorb that and try to bring that information and our thoughts on that back to the full board. So that's really the crux of what the facility committee does. And I know other members of the board sometimes get on Zoom and watch the meeting as well. But I certainly enjoy being on this committee and would certainly like to continue serving on that committee.
So current membership is Peter, Dawn, and Stephanie. So Peter, you want to stay on that? Thank you.
Yes.
Dawn? Anybody else would like to be on facilities committee?
We've had 3 members sometimes. I think at one time I've had 4, and we've had 2, but I think 3 is a good number. Stephanie going to stay with us, or
Yep, she just said so.
Okay.
sometimes she's the voice of reason?
Oh, yeah.
Intermediary.
Okay, great. So that is done. All right, so finance committee. So I currently chair that committee. It's kind of explained. So we review and sign check warrants. We approve credit card statements. Read and sign the monthly warrants at board meetings, which Elaine is fantastic at. And I would say the biggest change in the last couple of years is they've been a bit more instrumental in sort of shaping and developing the budget to sort of support Laura and get more in depth. And I think that worked out well this year. I think we were able to discuss things that needed to be discussed and sort of pinpoint goals and sometimes propose things. But the last few years we've also brought our targets for the budget to the full board for discussion and review. So I almost feel like it's finance and budget committee at this point, and I think it's quite important. I do plan on staying on that committee and continuing that work. So I think it's important minus the reading the credit card statements or the check warrants. But Elaine Purette,
I'd like to stay on that committee.
Yes.
is there anybody else that would?
I guess it seems like the finance committee has two roles. The finance committee, when we first came on, dealt with finance, and so I now think you're finance and budget, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you did take up on it. I'm speaking personally. I think that the 3 of you should meet, and you should decide amongst yourself who's chair. I think to be chair of the board, you're going to find it's going to be very demanding. I think you should be on finance because I think you have some history, you've brought some good ideas. But if I was in your seat, I would choose either Elaine or Pierrette to be the chair, to make sure that things were organized, work with Laura, make sure you're instrumental in decision-making, but not have the load of being the chair. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk about it next time we meet.
I would like to join. I'd like Swan to have a representative.
I agree.
I didn't hear you, Megan.
I think Swanton should have a representative, so I'd like to join unless
There's nothing
either
that
of
says it
you.
just has to be 3.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
No,
See,
I feel very strongly I'll be actually represented on finance.
That's great. Your name's on the list.
Oh, God. You didn't waste any
You
time.
can't go back now, Megan.
see, I was very pleased that, you know, sometimes I get thinking about something and then I leave it and go on to my personal business, but I was pleased that Megan stepped forward to say she would be vice chair. I think that'll work out great. But we need to get new people, not only on the board, not so much on the board, but take office. And, you know, I've seen Elaine and Pierrette. Pierrette stepped to the board 1 year, took over chairmanship of negotiations, and pulled off a really good settlement. I see Elaine with her banking knowledge, being a real good member of finance. And good, Tracy, we need to get everybody engaged. and working, because it's gonna be plenty of work for us when this legislature gets done. So, good. Thank you, Megan, for bringing that up.
Okay, all right.
I would say that, I think it was last year, we had those two committees overlap and it got a little rowdy.
Yeah, I remember that meeting.
I remember that.
We're not doing that anymore.
No, probably should avoid that.
Separate nights.
My intentions were very good. It was interesting. The policy committee we haven't had because we've actually been pretty caught up on our policies and are, reviewing them as we need to update them. So I almost feel like that becomes an ad hoc committee if we need them, but I don't know it's up to the board, obviously.
So when we first formed, that was a vital committee because we didn't have a lot of the policies
Right.
that we needed. So maybe in our retreat, we could discuss whether we still need the committee or not, and maybe there's something else that's more vital now.
Well, I do actually have an added role for the board that's coming up. Preview.
So I think we'll leave that as sort of ad hoc if needed, but I don't think we need to do anything more with that unless anyone disagrees.
Because at this point, the pace of it is such that if there's a policy that we need that becomes mandated or there's a big update, I review with the principals and the other administrators, and then we bring it to the full board, and the full board, is in essence the committee there. Student success, Joanne.
Student success, Joanne.
I'm sorry.
I guess the only thing before we leave that is that part of the reason we made that committee is because there was policies that we didn't know that we needed. I'm just wondering if maybe just a yearly review would
Yeah,
be.
I think that's great.
Like, are there policies out there that we should have that we currently don't?
There's some we want to get rid of.
Or that
It's
too.
just sometimes
Yeah.
it's not good to have policies, and there's certain things that we really are probably better off not having a policy about.
Yeah.
I think what Drew has started, I think we've gone through policies, made sure that there's anything we need to add, but I think your point, there may be some you want to recommend getting rid of.
Okay. Okay, student success. Joanne, want to give us a overview of student success?
Sure. So, we met last summer or at the beginning of the school year and went over just some topics that the committee wanted to touch on, hear about. So we did create a goal for ourselves. I think it's something that we brought to the retreat, so I got my hands on it. It was to understand the tools and the programs being used by the district, how the implementations and the use of these tools and programs are impacting student outcomes, and to communicate and promote those outcomes to the community in support of the MVSD budget. So obviously having a hard time with the budget, that was our focus for last fall. We just see and hear about a lot of different topics. Different to the finance committee or the facilities. It's not a continuation. It's not it's not a continuation of a building that's being built or the budget that's being, figured out. We're looking into a lot of different topics, two per month. So, and we have Yeshua, Jen, Kosha, and Christy that are there available to represent the different schools and the different programs. So I think, it's a great committee when you want more nitty-gritty details about certain things. So we heard on the EduClimb, the 5-year literacy plan that Jen presented to us. Celine came and spoke to us about the attendance, the truancy. Jen presented on the curriculum, dual enrollment. So, and then, the IA, so Derek presented to us about the challenges and opportunities for IA with the teachers. Kosha obviously presents on the Star 360, the fall. We also saw the winter data. Beth came and did more in-depth on the after-school program and Beyond the Bell. So, you know, the great things that's happening with it, the challenges that Beth Ann is having with it. And then we saw the VSAC, the senior survey, and Julie, just last month, the strategic plan draft that was brought to us. So there's a lot in there. I see a lot of stuff in there. So, and I would like to continue to be on it.
Have you ever thought about a student on the student success committee? That was one of the things, and as long as we're just going along, but one of the things I was going to share at a retreat, if we were talking about the governance, it would be, I know we didn't have any luck having a student on the board. I mean, we've tried it about 2 or 3 times, and we can't seem to get a commitment.
It's hard with all of the things.
It's hard, and it's hard in their lives too. But I was thinking student success. I mean, at times it would be great, and I'll talk with Peter, but depending what we're talking about, it might be good to see if Jason has a student, or if there maybe is a student working to, maybe not be a regular member, but come. I thought in student success, whether you wanted a regular member or just find out from Dan or someone, a student that might, or guidance might be good.
I would not want a regular student. Some of the data we go into, I don't think it would be.
It didn't work when I tried it.
Well,
It's very
sure,
personally
but
identified.
yeah, exactly. I think that there's private data at a lot of these meetings that I would not be comfortable having a student there. I certainly think there are specific topics, like when we're talking about the curriculum or post high school plans that we can invite students, but personally that I would be I feel strongly against that.
Are you against a student being involved at all on the success committee?
On a regular basis, yes, because I feel like there's too much potential for personal information to come out, because we really go deep into a lot of the data, into the schools, into the grade levels, and some of our classes are small, and it's I don't think it would be appropriate. But again, I do feel like there are topics that would be very beneficial to have them, but I feel that's more of a one-off invitation than a regular, you're coming twice a month to these meetings.
I think the same could be said of facilities. There are times when it would not be advisable.
Maybe the idea is to go with an invitation only, having a student come for and be invited instead of having a regular. It sounds to me like that would work for everyone.
Well, and it's something I can speak with Beth Ann about, with the teen leadership program. There might be, because there are different ways of getting student voice. I mean, we bring a lot of students to the board, but there are different ways of bringing student, I worked in another school district that I won't mention, where that high school had student reps, and they came and they said all the things. They said, the prom is next month, and get your tickets, and we just had a basketball game. Obviously we didn't have a basketball game when there's prom, but they just sort of talked about events, and it's really just sort of, it's not meaningful, right? And yet there are different ways. We're using a lot more teen leadership through the after-school program, and there might be other ways to have them come more often in different, it's just really tricky in the evening because kids are really busy with all of their activities. But I'd like to discuss with Beth Ann something that we might be able to do, especially if there's still strong board interest in involving the student voice a little more. But it wouldn't necessarily be, I come from 6 to 8 twice a month and sit on the board and talk about roofs, because, there's,
And
I think that would be not the way to
feel
go.
that's good, but I do think we need to engage our students more than we do.
So, So
Student
it
success.
so it sounds like sounds like Beth Ann's gonna be involved in that community, whether she likes it or not. I hear what you're saying, Dawn.
And
I understand.
I'm not advocating for a regular board member, because when we tried it, it doesn't work, and what happens is, if you look, the same students who are doing well in sports and music and drama and everything are the same ones you probably would get to come to the board meeting, and they're overloaded.
So it's a good point. I think any committee, honestly, could incorporate students, and we want that as a board as much as possible. I think as a regular thing, I can see why it may not work out, but kind of backing up, I think Student Success Committee actually needs to evaluate its goal. And so, because that's gonna drive what is the ask. You know, like if we just have students present just to talk about what? Just talk about grades or data or curriculum, or to just present to us. So I actually think the committee itself, and this may be part of what we go over more in a retreat, is what is the goal of that committee? Because I've listened in a few times, and I know Joanne, Elaine, Purette, Megan, is correct?
No, it's Stephanie, not
Stephanie?
Purette.
Not Purette. It seems like from the sort of recap that we get from the board, you receive a lot of information. But is the role of that committee to just receive information?
It has been so far.
Has been, yeah.
So I think that is a question, like if that's the goal of the committee, that's fine, and then yes, you could build in presentations from students and all sorts of stuff, but is that the goal of the committee? Because our board goals is to drive towards certain things, you know, economic budgets, improve our capital projects. We have improved student outcomes as a goal. In my opinion, student success should be driving towards that goal and proposing and doing things and keeping in line with, hey, what are we doing, how are we guiding things from a board governance perspective. So that
Although
would,
most of the work that's discussed there is administrative work, the work of the administrative team. However, what we do, I just want to add to the things that the Board Student Success Committee does, is then when we talk about the issues that are part of the board's goals, so that the committee has a sense of what we're doing toward those goals, and then at the end of the year, the committee really looks at the more comprehensive data so that the whole board is then seeing our progress toward board goals and eventually the strategic plan, which has the board goals embedded in it. So that is a facility for that work. So it facilitates that work in listening to what the activities of the educational leaders in all the schools are doing to get us toward those board goals and our continuous improvement.
so, thank you, that does kind of,
It just
it
ties
does,
it.
it ties it in, and it makes a lot of sense, kind of recaps what they're doing.
Teresa
So,
looks like she wants to say something.
Yeah, I would like to join that committee if I could.
I was just gonna say, so who wants to be on the committee? Alright, so Tracy,
I'm staying.
Megan? Joanne, you already said you want to.
She's already on the list.
Okay, you said that was the first thing you said, right?
Let's go Boston. So I have Joanne, Tracy, and Megan, Stephanie.
Well, I wanna see what else you have.
She wants to see the whole menu.
I wanna see the menu and pick and choose.
She hasn't gone to the buffet yet.
So, for now, you got 3.
No, I'll go on that one this year too.
I think there's four.
So, and I don't think there's any rule if somebody at some point wants to join a committee. There's no.
I think, and the other thing too, and I think Peter said this, but I'll say it again, like at any time, you can just zoom in and
Yeah.
listen, and that's huge. It's really, I'm constantly zooming into listening to the committee meetings because you learn so much from just the conversation that's being had, like it's more of a natural conversation that's had in those committees, finance or the facilities, so definitely promote that.
I think being, like, the difference being if you're on the committee, you're more invested in driving
Right.
what the committee does and the information we receive, rather than if you're just interested and want to call in and, like you said, stay up to date. I think that's where the difference lies between just being a member and just participating.
Okay.
I have a question. Julie, the negotiations committee, do you dissolve that after you get a contract? Or is that continues?
It's an ad, it's listed on this, when we fill this out, we put it on our website so that people know who's on which committee. And it's listed as an as needed and then the school year. So next year, we're not there yet, but yeah, it's listed specifically in the document. It's the purpose and length.
And what about the ag committee?
That's coming up.
Coming up next.
Okay.
These
We
are
need a
our
third-
ad hoc,
we need a
less
third
frequent.
member.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on from that, and then the committee next time it meets or at the retreat, we can maybe have some more of those discussions. All right. So we have the regional advisory board.
Let me explain that one.
Go ahead,
That's the new
Julie.
one. So we are part of a regional tech center. Our county meets as a regional advisory committee. It's a board that is in statute, and the membership of that board is in statute. It has to be 4 times a year. It meets during the school day, so that's, I know, a challenge for some board members. But I'm on that board, all the superintendents are on the board, the tech center directors are on the board. There's a rep from, and the agency of ed is trying to ensure that these committees run a certain way. They were looser before, so they are insisting that there's board representatives there. So it's 4 times a year during the day. You can zoom in, you don't have to leave your workplace. It's about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I put the work of it in there. It's a little misleading because in some places the RAB is the governance of the, and they're hiring people. We don't do that. It's Northwest Career and Technical Center in Cold Hollow. And we also represent our ag department there as well. We're appropriate. But we're looking for, there is a Maple Run rep and there is an Enosburg High School, an Enosburg Richford School District rep on the board, and we're looking for a Missisquoi rep.
I would be interested in that.
That's great.
I think
you waited.
Huh?
It's a good thing you waited.
Yeah. My job I can do. I
Okay.
can do stuff during the day.
And again, it's 4 times a year.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next is, Don, you're saying Ag Advisory Committee. I don't know if you or Joanne want to talk about that.
Well, I honestly believe that we are moving in the right direction. But some of that is because Julie's been able to hire and keep some good teachers. Hopefully they aren't going to be leaving. But they are very involved in the advisory committee meetings. I think maybe our attendance from the community members has dwindled in the beginning.
Well, we restructured the membership and the purpose,
Yeah.
so that changed some.
But when we first restructured, we had a lot of new people. There were a lot of businesses represented on the table. They were in the majority, but many of them haven't come to the last 2. So we got to try to make sure that we find out what the issue is that they're not coming.
And the purpose, under statute, of an advisory committee is to advise the tech center's administration on the things that need to be taught
Right.
and brought for students so that it's a high quality of programming. And it's not about some of, how it's run, right? But that's where board membership has been really helpful
And
in
I
that
think-
communication.
I can't even think of the fellow's name now. That's terrible because he's not doing a good job. The new,
Well, Richard Barling.
yeah,
Yeah.
Richard, I think he's done a really good job in trying to make it what it's supposed to be, not what it was.
Correct.
Because it wasn't, it's not a place for the teachers, as good as they may be, to come and share their wants or needs or their
That's why they have a principal.
complaints, yeah. So anyway, I think if I see anything in the Ag Committee that I'm really super proud of is this, getting the students involved more in the programs, what they're doing, and also in FFA. And I realize FFA is not a course, it's a spin-off, but for some of the students, it's what keeps them coming there. You know, it's struggled for the last 20 years, and I would say right now it's probably solid, but it depends how much we can get businesses. I think Cargill and a few others are very strong representatives, but at least Joanne, you go to the meetings, you're very into it.
You want to continue, Joanne?
She does. She's very good.
So Don, are you staying on the Ag Committee?
Yeah, I'll stay there if somebody wants to, only because I want to see. I want Joanne to stay there, that's why I'm
I
staying.
will stay.
Is there a third?
Kind of finesse that one, yeah.
You sure did.
Is there a third?
But we could use a third member.
So there is a meeting scheduled for April 9th.
Yeah.
If someone is interested without being committed, if you're interested in coming to the meeting, just to get your big toe wet and see what it's like.
Shucks, Aaron, leaving us out.
Okay.
Next year is negotiations for support staff.
Okay.
And we don't usually commit folks to that until the fall, but if people have any idea that they want to continue to do that,
I think we should wait until we get closer to it.
what others?
Pure, I can wait tomorrow.
So we've already discussed policy committee.
And the state healthcare delegate,
Yeah.
we already conscripted Pierrette to that. But
Good word choice.
I don't know that it's gonna be necessary.
What's that?
The state healthcare, I don't
Oh.
believe, I think they're still in a moratorium.
Yeah,
For
last
negotiating.
I heard,
They're not.
even though I've seen online, they've been really criticized for being on moratorium, but, you know,
Yes.
it is what it is.
So, that was all you had?
That's it.
So the only thing else I did want to bring up, because we've discussed this a couple years in a row, is we've talked about athletics, and we've talked about, I guess, how that would look. We have a new AD this year. I did bring that to Julie. I understand potentially some of that stuff could dip down into operational territory, and so I think the board has to be mindful of that. But is that something, or something in that sphere, whether it was creation of something new, whether it's athletics mixed with potentially extracurricular activities as a whole? Again, this is an open question to the board members. If there's something like that they would like to consider.
Can I share what we've discussed as an admin team? So Dan, Bonnie, Laura, and I have discussed how we're gonna support the new athletic director and create better communication between coaches and boosters and families and central office and all of that. As we know, that can be a challenge and lead to issues. So administratively, we're gonna have a monthly meeting with that team of folks, so that there's, right from the get-go, it's really clear how we need to do things. Part of the athletic director's responsibility will be updating the board more regularly in written form, in the board reports. And we did discuss, since we know that there is interest, that maybe once a season, that meeting could be held in the evening, and board members that wanted to join could join that meeting, or we could have a group that's dedicated that would join. And we would do that maybe 3 times a year, as a way to keep the board at governance level, but then really be informed about what's going on.
So this job is more than being athletic director, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
No, it has been, but we referred to it, it's been referred to ever since I was on the board's athletic director. there's more to it than that. Is it too much for one, we keep adding athletic teams? Is the job too big for one person to have athletics and drama and?
We've actually talked about that. That's one of the things that we didn't want to change right away. But we have talked about the extended learning coordinator, Beth Ann, maybe doing a little bit more of that with the principal, and that collaboration. But that's something we would be discussing administratively in some of these meetings.
What do you mean, like drama and stuff?
Well, the
Does
athletic
that
director
fall
also,
under-
yeah, absolutely.
Wait, what?
It does.
We never reported to him.
Oh, I know. That's
So
not.
wait,
So
I
that's
didn't
Bonnie,
even know.
Bonnie
I thought it was
can
just
actually
Jane that was
clarify.
like-
I can actually explain.
So you're saying
I'm not
that
sure the
we had
musical
somebody
director
who was
knew
in
that.
charge of drama?
Not in charge, all co-curriculars and extracurriculars.
I would love to have this committee.
I don't, yeah, me too. I don't
From
think
my
that
percent.
these groups are aware of that.
That's the problem.
That's what
that's what the
And I think some of the groups feel that they're kind of ignored, that they're second or third class, because they're not really tied into athletics. I think it's an issue to.
I agree. I know, like musical for one, it's really much self-propelled, self-funded, everything. I had no idea.
It really has been, it goes through the principal.
Because it's in the school.
Yeah.
Right? So the AD's part really is the assisting of finding advisors for the extracurriculars. So every extracurricular in the school has its own advisor. And then that advisor technically reports to Dan or Christy, depending on what it is. But the involvement of the AD in that
It's very minimal.
is minimal with the running of the clubs and extracurriculars. It's more about hiring and finding advisors. But we've been really fortunate in the last couple of years that it really ends up being like sophomore, junior, senior class advisors that we end up looking for more than musical or chorus or things like that.
So it really is Dan that finds the sophomore class advisors and those kinds of pieces. So in the end, the advisor reports to the principal, which is the chain of command there. My only concern, and I want to make sure that we're supporting the athletic director and we're supporting the health of the programs and the board is involved. But we are talking about somebody who reports to a principal, who reports to me, who reports to a board. So I want to make sure that we aren't dipping into directing somebody because that's not the board's role.
So I'm in favor of the athletics committee. We actually had that back when I was a part of that when I was on the
Yep.
board. And it was just, we acted more like a conduit, from the athletic director to the board as information flowed through. They didn't come every board meeting to give us information on what was going on, so that we kind of acted as that conduit of information to kind of let the board know what's going on. So I'm in favor of it, for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Can you hear from other board members, their thoughts?
I'm not on the board, but I have thoughts.
Sure.
As the director of finance and operations. We have a lot of work to do, most of it being around communication. We have policies, we have procedures, we have the right structure, the scaffolding is there. 95% of the issues that have arisen have to do with communication or follow through. I think the group that we've put together has some really great, good work to do, and I think it's the right people as far as an administrative team. I think I would like the opportunity, myself anyway, to work on some of the known issues that we know that we have. I'm not discouraging the board from doing anything. We are very aware of some of the things that need to be worked on, and we have a lot of ideas about how to bring those things to fruition. And we're at a place where we can make that work happen and the rubber hit the road. And I just am a little bit concerned about adding another layer of that in right now. Not to say never or maybe, but I just think we'd have to be really clear about. I just think it could make it it could be making it more complicated right now. Maybe 6 months down the road when the athletic director and our team have built, sort of our relationship and how we make decisions. But that's just me being in the weeds, involved in a lot of these conversations, seeing firsthand what a lot of the issues truly are. I just would like the opportunity to work on some of that with the admin team. I'm worried that it's the board's decision, and the board should have input. I'm just worried about if we add that in right now on top of all of the things that we're working on, I'm not sure if it's gonna muddy the waters and make it harder to get some of that accomplished. It's just my opinion.
So the Ag Advisory Committee, do you recommend policies, action, or anything? You just get information? You just listen? Could there be a compromise where it's not the board inputting anything, but it's just a venue like 3 times a year?
Like I said, 3 times a year, having board members that participate, and we would have our.
Like it's not there, like it's, you're right, I actually agree. That's operational. We shouldn't be down there advising or saying anything, but just maybe a chance to just get more information.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's completely a board decision. I just think because communication is the biggest issue, adding another layer of that right now is gonna be tricky, but I think if it's information or feedback back and forth, I just think it has to be really clear. The biggest struggle with those programs has been that boosters doesn't know who they answer to or what they're doing or what the processes are or how they're different than the theater program or versus the sports program. So getting some of that established and known and communicated is gonna be the really important work in the next couple of months with that new athletic director.
So, well, other thoughts, so I hear you, and to me that makes perfect sense. I just think of it, maybe instead of looking at it from, like budget finance, it's very clear, like the board votes on that, we have to do that. This is a bit different, but what if it was almost use the board, like we're out there in the community, that is our role. So even if just like more of a one-way, like through a glass, because I know that's important, maybe just hear what's going on 3 times a year and get more information, and not act as a do this, do that, even create an agenda, like maybe just an access, and it could be very infrequent.
I'd like to go back with something I think Julie said earlier, and that was that you would have, 2 or 3 times a year where we would
Right.
we can have.
We're gonna be meeting monthly, at least at first, and then if we did it maybe once per season, where we had that meeting, at 5 o'clock or something like that, and that, we develop an agenda, so we're sharing out with the board, what are the challenges, what are the things that we've been working on, what's coming up, previewing that information.
So I think that's a logical next step, to do something like that, because I'm gonna say, if you said right now, who would like to be on it? I'd like to be on it. You'd like to be on it. Maybe you would like to be on it. I mean, athletic kind of touches all of us and those things, so.
Well,
Exactly.
does it have to be athletic? Maybe just extracurricular?
Athletic and extracurricular.
Yeah, it can't just be athletics.
And because I want to say, I don't want to overtask admin, I really am very aware of that. What if we just call it informational? Like it's not a committee.
I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
just
Like
think-
it's because the moment we call something a committee, it almost like we're gonna do something, and maybe having 1 year of just some touch points, and then we can talk about this next year more. But just trying to keep
Julie
that.
suggested. We
Yeah.
start having a committee, you got minutes, then you got people in the community, wanna come to your next committee meeting, and you're.
So,
How is this, I guess in my head, we've had regular updates from the athletic director that I don't think really give us.
They're not robust.
No, they're not. So instead of adding another group, can we just replace those updates with an update so that you can just give us the information? It's not extra hours, it's not extra meetings.
so
No.
sure, it could be rolled into regular board meetings.
Because my thought initially, when you shared this idea, and I was talking about, is you've been talking about making sure that the new athletic director is well supported and understands all of the moving pieces and politics and all of the things, which is not easy. And Dan is gonna need to spend a lot of time supervising this individual, and he doesn't have the same depth of knowledge that Bonnie has or Laura has, right? So, if we then have the expectation, and this group that's meeting administratively every month could really talk about and prep for those board updates in person that are more robust, that could be an action, something that we work on regularly. My concern is really about.
Call a committee.
Yeah.
Right, so just to recap, because now I'm just getting confused. And I do not want to be on this.
Joanne's on several committees right now.
So with that said, I understand Laura, but I like what Julie is saying about 3 times a year, a handful of board members, maybe to have that conversation, minutes, no minutes, it doesn't matter, but off camera, where, we've had a few rough years, where information has been brought to us that we might not have been aware of. So I do think that this would be a step in the right direction to show that there's a handful of board members, not everyone, to, be there and be supportive, so I think it should be seen as being supportive to the AD without making a lot of extra work. That's not what we're looking for.
Well, and that's not, I'm not concerned about the work. What I'm concerned about is us being able to accomplish these things that are fundamental to the operation of athletics and extracurriculars that are basic, that we would all sit in this room and know that are fundamental, that maybe haven't been going as well as they could have been. The biggest one, communication. So I just want to make sure that we can get that work done and then move on to the more like,
So we need
how
to
do we
have
want to
our
grow the
house
programs? How do we want to,
We need to have our house in order first.
Right.
Well, and I think there is an importance because of how important these activities are for the community and what people think of the school. It is important that board members know what's going on, and so that it is the thing that you hear about when you're at the supermarket or you're on the soccer field, right? So board members can, that have that. I just want to be mindful of the chain of command and that we're not suddenly directing principals to do things, and we're not suddenly directing the athletic director who reports to the principal who reports to me. Like it's just like I want to be really clear that that's not the purpose.
Isn't that an argument to just roll it into what we already have standing with athletic updates? I am the one who's like, okay, why? Like, what's the point? So what? And I guess I don't see I don't have an answer to the why of why. It just seems unnecessary. And I also feel like because athletics and extracurriculars are so important that it should be at the full board level on camera. And if you're meeting anyway, again, if there's just like an open invitation for anyone who wants to go, I just don't see the point in creating some other advisory committee or informational committee, especially if it's not going to be something where we're recommending anything, because again, that's not our place. So I guess I would just say again, I think it makes more sense to replace what we've been having with something much more robust.
And more frequent.
Yes, more than just
and if
once
it's more,
at the end of
it's
every
covering
season.
extracurriculars, if it's more than just this team did this team did that, what did the other groups do?
Right, exactly.
I agree with
I want to
agree with
thank Rennick and Julie for bringing it forward, because it's been one of those issues that's been a little.
No, the discussion needed to happen, and we needed to come to a place where we are good and we, because they're important issues. I mean, Megan, the amount of times you brought up football and athletics, and you went through a lot last year, and boosters.
We're not going through that again.
No.
And we're not, but I think part of.
That's our job.
Part of our role is to discuss these and have open conversations about how is the best way to get the information to make sure the community knows that we're working on that. So sounds like where we're just gonna land on this is we can just roll these into regular board meetings and just have more robust conversations about extracurriculars and athletics as part of our agendas.
Okay.
Is everyone,
So,
I think
Peter's
that's
had his
good.
hand up.
Peter, go?
So I'm hearing from certain members some passion about having a committee for athletics. And I know when we started the committees, there was some backlash about starting the facilities committee. And I think that has worked out quite well. I don't think that board members are going into a committee or anything to be directing anyone on how to do things, right? Like on the facilities committee, we are not directing the facility directors on what they're doing. That's not our job. We are just listening and getting the information. Face it, a lot of us, the most we hear about is stuff that we don't have any idea what's going on. There's stuff going on in athletics that is out there. We have no idea what's going on, and we can't tell anybody what's going on. If we have a committee, or you can call it whatever you want, I think that board members should have the opportunity to be involved, and yes, give input when asked, or give input when a board member feels that it's needed. Again, we're not directing anybody on what to do, but I think that it is, like, we had members here tonight had no idea that drama and everything is all grouped in this. It's like, those are the type of things that the board members should know. So again, I don't want to be on the committee. Not enough. But I think if board members are passionate about this, and we do have, it's high visibility, right? People go to all these games. I think that board members should be involved, so.
Beyond regular meetings?
Yes, and what Megan said is what I was gonna say. We could just be handed a piece of paper for the information we're getting. We're not getting into the meat of what's happening. We're getting into this many people participated, we had this many sports, da-da-da. It's not information that we can't read somewhere. The information we need is, how are things going? How are things being put together? What problems are we having doing things? What are we having problems with parents? Are we having problems? You know, we've had different board meetings where they've come and said students weren't acting appropriately at games, things like that. How can, and maybe that's something the board can help with, right? So I think that I have no angst against having a committee if that's what people want to do. But I just, before we say we're not going to do it, I just wanted to have an opportunity to say that.
So can we vote? It's not an action, it's, right, it's just a committee, or?
Well, let's go around the room. So Peter doesn't have an issue with it if board members want it. Don?
question is, committee or no committee?
Because we're hearing two different things. We're getting.
I thought, and I respect Peter, but I thought we had it pretty well resolved from what Julie said. The administration would deal with it, and maybe 3 times a year, there'd be a chance for board members to come in and meet. And
Hypothetically, if there was a committee, just hypothetically, who would be on it? So we have 3 members. So, are the others against having that?
I'm not against it. I think it would be good to have one. I just said I'm not interested in being on it.
I'm not against having one, I just don't want, I think it's important enough, to Peter's point, like, I hate that. I am approached and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that, because I have no idea. So I think it's important enough to be at the full board level. So I'm fine if people want to do that and it doesn't interfere with getting the foundation built. But I don't want to then be in the dark if I'm not on that committee.
And that's how I feel. And the one thing, about all these committees is that it's fine, but then you have to, if you want to know what's going on in the committee, you have to attend all those committee meetings. That's just another meeting.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to keep up with all that.
But there is a reality though, that so we're already at 8:08 and we still have
A lot.
A lot.
a lot to get to. And
patience, John.
Prices went up.
It's all right.
and clearly this,
Let's
so,
bring it back to a
yeah.
future agenda.
So what we'll do is, just write in athletic extracurricular committee and we will table this and we will discuss it next time. Because I think this needs a longer conversation so we can come to some sort of consensus. Is that good? Because it's important, it makes a lot of sense both sides, and this actually might be something that maybe we get into on April 9th or April 16th. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get through this other stuff. Thank you, Aaron. I actually think that's really important to talk about.
Good discussion.
Okay, EEI roof contract, amendment.
We're done.
So if you remember last meeting, the board considered and approved a MVU roof and Highgate roof and window contract. And at the end of that conversation, I let you know that there may be some cost savings that might be available if we pooled all of the summer projects that are in the capital plan together. That is the case. So I've asked John to keep that in mind as John goes through this presentation. This is basically a summary of the projects, because I think it's important for the whole board to hear about that. There's some budget stuff at the end. In the board drive, there's a very detailed, comprehensive breakdown of the budget on all the projects. So I don't know if the board had time to look at that either, but if there's specific questions, we can answer those at the end.
I just want to point out, Peter, did you see we changed the picture on the front slide after you made fun of me last time?
There, thank you.
Peter's seen the same image at the start of the presentation on, like, I don't know, 100 of these, so.
Also, Jason is online for questions too, just so everyone's
See
aware.
the value of the facilities committee?
Good job.
All right, so we can just go to the next slide. So just a quick overview of the projects that are currently planned for 2025. We've got a phase of roofing in MVU. This will be the fourth phase. Depending on how we slice up the remainder of the roof, there's between 2 and 3, maybe 4 other phases of the roof until everything at MVU is done. We're also looking at adding roofing over top of the existing standing seam roof at Highgate. That was in the budget last year, then got carved out through the budget process after it was voted down a couple times. We're also looking at replacing windows in the 5th and 6th grade classrooms. We're looking at renovating the D-pod bathrooms to solve some safety and security issues we have there. And then a major renovation at Babcock. So we'll kind of dive into each of those as we go forward a little bit. So as Laura said, the MVU roofing phase was approved at the last board meeting. Addresses the flat roof over Commons cafeteria area. This is where the most leaks are, and the worst ones. For people that have been on the board for a while or have been paying attention to it, we did the first 3 phases because those are actually higher than the roofs on Commons. They all drain to this, so this is the next step. Once this is done, the roof over the auditorium and the gym are really the big pieces that remain. Those are going to be very large phases. At Highgate, we're looking at adding a little bit of insulation between the ribs on the standing seam roofing. There's that brown standing seam roofing that is well past its usable life, is leaking like crazy in the valleys, and then adding a membrane roof over top of that. So it'll look similar to the white roof. There are some color choices we can get into later, but that's basically what was done to the areas of the roof that are white now. That was done, I don't know, 6 years ago when they really did that. So, and again, that was proposed in last year's budget, but had to be cut for budget reasons. Looking at replacing the windows in the 5th and 6th grade classrooms. These are the 2 wings that are off of the gym. Going back in there with the same kinds of windows that were just installed at Babcock last summer. Those worked out really, really well. They're much more energy efficient. They lock easy. It's a it's not security glass, but just the fact that you can open them and then close them and lock them is a security improvement from what we have right now. And then D-pod bathrooms, I know there's been lots of discussions about the challenges there. I've seen it firsthand during multiple site visits while we're there, trying to go through and look at this. It's a challenge. And so basically, the next slide will kind of show the floor plan of this, but basically we demolish everything inside the existing footprint of the D-pod bathrooms and create 6 individual toilet rooms with full height doors, full height walls. There's no place for anybody to congregate and misbehave. It allows a camera to be placed right there so you can see everything that's going on. So it's a pretty open.
Who goes in?
Of who goes in? Yeah. Not inside the rooms.
We have a policy.
I'm sure you do have a policy about that. The policy committee, I'm sure, drafted that. So
It's on quick.
Now you know all about the community.
I was paying attention. So basically, that's the layout of it now. We don't go outside of the perimeter of the existing footprint there. Believe it or not, those walls are structural. We can't really mess with them a whole lot. MVU, as I'm sure you can imagine, is built in a very interesting way with it being all kinds of round stuff everywhere. It presents some interesting challenges and opportunities for our architects and structural engineers to learn a lot and then teach me. And so these are kind of rendering views that you would see from inside Commons. We had the architect put these together quickly so they're not to the level that the renderings for Babcock are, just so that people could get an understanding of what you're going to see in Commons looking into this space. So you're not looking at people's feet under the doors while they're using the restroom. They are private rooms, but there's not a space for people to congregate and misbehave and vape or do whatever they're doing. So it's pretty open in that respect. Now to the big one. Babcock HVAC and electrical renovation. This is a very, very involved project. All new electrical and HVAC systems. We renovate the gang bathrooms, both sets of gang bathrooms in that space. We solve a bunch of ADA issues right now, and I can get into the more details if you want, but I promise Laura that I would go quickly. We solve plumbing issues that have been plaguing the kitchen for a long time. There's a sewer line under the kitchen that's not right that we're going to dig up and fix. We add a double secure entrance, so it's not bulletproof glass like what you might have at MVU, but it is school guard glass, which is what we have actually here at the front edition here, that you basically can't throw a rock through it. You can't hit it with a sledgehammer and break through it. It won't stop a bullet, but it will stop pretty much everything but. And then exterior upgrades to new sidewalks, repave the parking lot. We redo the fascia and the siding on the gym. And then that weird kind of white creamish colored corrugated stuff that goes all around the perimeter. We get rid of that, kind of spruce up the outside quite a bit. And then there's a ton of added insulation and energy upgrades that are part of this whole thing.
So John, you had said, or correct me if I'm wrong, but in a lot of ways this project's actually bigger than the one you did here in Franklin.
It is much bigger in the size and the scope of it. It adds some different complexities that didn't exist in Franklin. Franklin had some other we tore the front of the building off of Franklin. That was pretty complicated. This has a lot of phasing and sequencing complexities to make sure that we do this work effectively. We are looking at displacing students for a period of time in part of the building. So there's a whole other component of this that Laura and Jason and the principals are working through. But it is very complicated.
Yeah.
But in the end, we'll have.
Again to the fall, you mean to the fall?
Yes, it'll continue through December.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in the end, Babcock will have upgraded electrical, because it's like 1964.
It's original, yeah, it's ancient.
And the air will be conditioned, so
Yes,
it will really, the learning environment will just be incredibly enhanced.
This is a great project that's been talked about for probably 15, 20 years. Let's do a little of this, let's do a little of that. And this is a big ball of wax, but it'll put us in a good position.
This really sets up Babcock in that you shouldn't have to do anything of major consequence there for 20 plus years.
20, 30,
Yeah.
I'd say boilers is a part of it.
Boilers are part of it too.
That's great.
Lighting in the windows was already done.
How's Central, like, in comparison? Is that going to be next? Okay, I just didn't know if
The
that was.
HVAC and dehumidification would be the
Yeah.
next. It's
Well,
all
we'll
on the
hear from
capital
some
plan.
central people at Babcock's got something better.
But that's the central project would
That's
be,
good.
we need to relocate kids for probably the year. So that's the difference.
Or phase it where it takes 2 or 3 years to do it.
God, I'm not on the facilities committee.
So, I know we've talked about the funding for these different projects a little bit when we were budgeting, but there's really, I would say, 4 to 5 different funding sources that is proposed to be used to cover the cost of this. You can see that the total cost is just over 9 million, but if we bundle these projects together, there's a projected savings of 151. So the contract that we brought to you tonight is the 8.9 million at the bottom. We're utilizing surplus dollars from the current budget that exist at the moment, that I believe the facility committee was comfortable earmarking for this purpose, as well as the capital line of 1.9 million in the fiscal year 26 budget. And also, the reason we can accomplish all of this in 1 year is because the lease payment on the Babcock project does not come into effect until fiscal year 27 if we time it correctly. And rates will be coming down by then, so it's in the best interest of the school district to wait to solidify that, the lease. So then that frees up the cash for this year to get those roofing projects and window projects done. And then the next year, we would take on that lease payment of the approximately 780,000. I'm hoping that number will be closer to 750 or even lower with the rates coming down. But the only other thing that I didn't add in here is that we do, again, have hot lunch surplus. And some of these things are happening, like we talked about the sewer drain going through the floor in the cafeteria. The cafeteria, any of the gym at Babcock really is a multi-purpose space, so I'm thinking there's some flexibility there that, and I do, I'm in the process of writing another corrective action plan because we have too much cash in that program, so I will try to use what we can out of that for this project to offset any of these costs that we can also, but that's kind of a to be decided.
We've already purchased some of the
electrical
equipment with
Yeah, so-
surplus funds from last year that
Yeah.
EEI is storing for us.
Yes, so all of the major equipment and electrical equipment's been ordered.
Right, so we've been able to, again, to do projects of this scale in a fiscally responsible way. It's really a multi-year funding process and various between the leasing, where we're able to lease for certain things like the HVAC, et cetera, and anything related to that. So coming at it with multiple ways of doing it, it's been very efficient for our community.
And the lease is a 10-year lease. We were not able to utilize the USDA funds through the bond bank that we had hoped. There were some legal opinions that were needed, and there were some loopholes, or we couldn't quite thread the needle through some of the statute language.
It was not for lack of trying.
Not for lack of trying. We spent a lot of time trying. But it's a 10-year lease, which is much more advantageous than a 30-year bond. That never, it seems like it never goes away, and you can't get to the next one because you just ask the voters. This is, to me, easier way to tackle some of these projects for sure. And the only other thing I would say is the facility task force has been discussing this, like this is the result, this work, this summer work is the result of years of conversation and planning with the capital plan and prioritization and lots of conversations. And I just think it's really important for the community to know that this is a lot of conversation that's gone into this planning.
Yeah, this didn't happen overnight. Are you looking for a?
Yeah, we will need a motion for the
So-
EI roof contract. Is that
So I'll
it
make a
then?
motion to bundle these projects into one contract, so that would be the Swanton Babcock renovation, the MVU D-Pod bathroom, the MVU roof phase, and the Highgate roof and window replacement for a total proposed of $8,939,968.
The only thing I would add is that would then be replacing the existing contract with, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was gonna
Yeah,
ask you.
yeah.
So the contract that we currently have would go away.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
So we did discuss it quite a bit, obviously, in the facilities meeting, and we tried to look at, is there any negative to doing this and not bundling them? And we couldn't find any that were worth $151,850.
Thank you for all the hard work on it, especially to Laura's point of this took years of conversation, so thanks for doing it. And thank you and your team for
Thank
doing
you.
it.
It's been a challenging but enjoyable process, actually.
Obviously, Jason's on too, and he's a vital part of it as well. All his hard work, and his team will be helping on some of these projects as well to get them completed. I don't know, Jason, if you have anything you want to add.
We aren't gonna let John get away, even though he's telling us that the next guy coming in is super good.
I'm still be very tied to these projects.
Can we just vote on it first?
Jason did want
Yeah, I think Jason.
Yeah, no, I mean, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, no, like Laura said, we've been working on this project for years. All of these, the MVU roof project, we're going into year 4, the Depot bathroom project, we've been throwing that around for almost 3 years now, and it was brought to us that, this is the year we need to make something happen. Same thing with the Highgate roof, unfortunately it didn't happen last year. The Babcock renovations, we've been talking about Babcock renovations, ever since I started in Swanton. Really, like I said, the last probably 4 to 5 years, we started putting, pen to paper on how we're gonna get this project done. There's really not a section of Babcock that's not gonna be touched, after this project. I'm looking forward to it. I've been waiting a long time for this project to happen. It's a great project. I've gone through everything many times with John, with Laura. I'm really happy with the proposal we have. I really can't wait to see this project get going.
Yeah, we've heard you, Jason, before talking about weekends, middle of the night, with the boiler situation, and then plumbing issues. So I can see where you're going to be pretty thrilled to have this project behind you.
Yeah, no, it's a great project. I mean, it updates almost every piece, every issue that we've had in that building. So it's I can't wait.
Jason has been a real key factor in this. We've heard people 4 or 5 years. I went on the board in Swanton 21 years ago. In my first term, we talked about some of these projects. So it's time they're done.
Thank you, Jason. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0. Franklin lawn mower purchase?
Do you want to go, John? You're welcome to
You
leave.
mean to talk about the lawnmower?
Well, yeah. You've heard this conversation before.
Buy Joyce a lawnmower.
Can I mow the lawn? It'll be a little break from this project.
He's gonna be busy painting with Jim.
This is an easy one.
So, 2 facility meetings, this was discussed, but Franklin is on the list to be getting a zero-turn lawnmower or tractor, however you want to call it. So Stephen worked hard to gather different quotes. He brought 3 quotes to the meeting in February. The facility task force asked him to bring back a 4th quote for a Ferris mower, since the school district does have all Ferris mowers at the moment. So he did do that, but you can see here the amounts and the vendors and makes and models of the tractors. I don't know if Peter, you or one of the facility members wants to put forth the recommendation, but Stevens was the hustler, correct?
Yeah, we certainly reviewed this a lot with Stephen, and we did talk a lot about the fairs because we've had good luck with that. But Stephen has a lot of experience with the Hustler lawnmower and Spear Street mowers, and he's quite confident with them, and with the significant less price for a bid there. We certainly supported that, so I would make the motion that Franklin purchase the Hustler mower as presented on there for $11,829.
I'll second that.
All right. Any other discussion?
Is there a second on that one?
Stephanie's gonna be the assistant lawnmower driver.
I'll drive the lawnmower.
Might be your first time.
I love
All in favor?
that.
All right, none opposed.
We will be bringing you recommendations after the facility task force talks about them for the other equipment purchases that are on the list as well. Jason's currently gathering quotes for that.
Thank you, Laura. And Bonnie, that was great, so.
Are we still under finance? The latest word on the yield is that worrisome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Yeah, no, that's,
The yield number that's out right now makes a 0.007 cent impact to our tax rate. It's a positive impact, so it reduces the burden to the taxpayers, but only by the 0.007. I'm actually surprised by that a little bit because the 77 million and the 40 million going into the ed fund, I thought would make a more significant difference, but
no,
the
it's not
77.
passed yet.
Right, it hasn't
Right.
passed, so I'm hoping that we end up in an even better place, but.
I raised the issue on the finance, and I'm sure Laura will bring it to us later on, but my understanding, talking with some legislators, what they're doing is good this year, for this year. It's gonna put us in a tight situation next year.
Well, that's what I'm worried
A
about.
bad situation next year.
Being used
not
as a
just
bargaining
tight.
chip also.
So, okay, thank you.
We'll have a further update that at another board meeting, because that is.
Yeah, that's an issue for its own.
That is
The only thing is that I just wanna say one more thing about it, is the only thing is yes, we can, but should we say something? Should we contact our representatives and say we're against that or for it, or just leave it alone, or how do we feel? I mean, I do think that's, timing on that is important. In the next board meeting, it may be too late, so I'd like to know how people feel, maybe.
Well, it's only crossing over at this point.
It is.
It's just crossover.
Because I saw a
Crossover
thing
just
from the
starts.
VSBA saying it's an action item, so.
It is right, so it's crossover in the legislator, and I don't even know if it's left committee at this point, so.
It's probably gone to finance. or
Yeah,
will.
so I think it's hung up somewhere, so I'm not particularly worried that by the next board meeting, we're not gonna be talking about the same thing. And it would be worth an agenda item, discussion item.
I
to
think
talk
so.
about it,
Yep.
so you can add that to future board meetings. For the sake of time, we have leave of absence request.
So these two items, both leave of absence and admin contracts, we'd be looking for a finding for executive session for both of those topics. Because that's really where they should be discussed.
I will make a motion that there is a finding to have executive session for the purpose of discussing personal human resources matters.
I'll second it.
Did I say it right?
The point was clear.
I'm gonna copy what was in the last minutes.
We will definitely make
I
the
think
point
that was correct.
that premature public knowledge of either of those topics would put one or more parties at a substantial
That goes in the next.
But that's the
section.
next one.
That's the
That's
next
when
one.
we
This
go
is the-
in.
It's appropriate for a finding.
The finding is there are appropriate topics for executive session.
One day we'll get.
Copy and paste.
It's 8:30, folks.
You got it all.
All,
Before we vote on that, just and I'm sure it's worthy, but I don't know what the administrative contract approval, what's the gist of that needs to be executive session?
Because we are, the board is finalizing the contracts that will be issued to principals and other administrators.
Okay.
There's only one unknown that's still to be discussed.
All in favor for the finding for executive session?
Aye.
Next, we had committee updates for the month. I think we can skip over that. Unless we want to go back to that.
No.
We had enough of these.
Next time. All right.
We aren't meeting in May, right? Or April or whatever?
No, not now that that contract just got approved.
Future agenda items are SRO update,
Yep.
student presentation, Thunder.
Hopefully, we're gonna get students to talk about the Thunder School News that's been happening at MVU, so we're hoping we can get,
We get to see Ricardo again.
we're hoping to get Ricardo back, but I don't wanna commit Ricardo, prematurely.
Okay, but
That's
has
our
anybody
intent.
actually seen any of those episodes?
I haven't
They're
really,
so good.
that's important.
They're very funny.
And then, we have some future topics for the next month that we've listed there.
Yep.
And we'll include legislative update conversations.
Yes.
And before June, can we get an update from Beth Ann on just what's going on?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Maybe in June.
You have Beth Ann, you have legislative, and you have discussion of. Okay, our next board meeting is April 8th at MVU, 6 p.m. And now, hold on, let me get it. And now we move to,
You wanna look for it?
hold on.
I'm sorry, I'm bossy.
Listen, I'm taking my little sheet from the SBA here. So now we're looking for a motion for entering into executive session due to finding a premature general knowledge of human resources matter would place one or more person at a substantial disadvantage.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're now in.
Who are we inviting in?
We are inviting in Bonnie and Julie.